Thank you, Uti. I hope colleagues can hear me okay. It's a great pleasure to be here at the final conference. As previous colleagues have also mentioned, I too will mention my huge thanks to THL for inviting us, for giving us the opportunity to lead this work package, despite that being towards the end of Brexit. It has been a real pleasure being part of this project, and huge thanks to all the work package leads. Your work is what we help to disseminate, and it's been really good productive collaborative efforts over the last few years. It has been with its fair share of challenges, but I think we have recovered really well post-pandemic to be able to make a good case towards the end of this project. What I wanted to share today, along with Leah, is the work we've done. But before that, I also want to thank my team who have been really helpful, in particular to Karen Dancy, who's helped do a lot of the running around and helping and coordination. Back at the base, we have colleagues who are helping in finance. Special mention to Helen, David, and also to my PA, Cotty, who's helped us keep on track. So for today's brief presentation, I want to cover three areas between myself and Leah, which is the give an outline of what this work package we entitled to do, then the key milestones and objectives, and some of what we have achieved, and also just a flavor for what is going to come towards the end, which is the blueprint for joint action. For the first time, I think in many joint actions, we have taken dissemination and communication really to the next level in terms of providing a very professional, evidence-based approach to planning and communication for this work package. Clearly, we've regarded communication as a public health intervention in its own right, and it's not something as a bolt-on, but it is a core part of public health interventions. And we have applied very rigorous standardized evidence-based methodologies, which is the framework is what we've shown in this communication cycle for a joint action like this, which has got complex landscape, multiple stakeholders, plus a wide variety of topic areas. It is important to understand the business needs very well in terms of identifying the key communication objectives and the dissemination objectives, and take it through the channels of audience segmentation, the core messages, the channels, what's the plan, how do we measure, and how do we implement and evaluate. So we've strictly followed this cycle, and some of the matrices that Leah will present later will speak to that. And our job mainly was to give visibility to the work done by the other packages in terms of at two levels. One is to get the intra-project coordination going, which is so that work packages are aware of what else other work packages are doing, and where there is opportunities for cross-fertilization and synergy. And then the second part is the external facing communication and impact dissemination of the work of this project. So those are in sort of those two planes. Very briefly, we have covered our progress through four phases arbitrarily. So the first phase is around the initiation and setup phase. The second one was during the pandemic phase, and the third one during the immediate post-pandemic recovery, and now the final phase of the project. Within the first phase, we looked at establishing the right communication strategy, the infrastructure and assessment of the needs and the channels. So we have 5 deliverables for our work package. We have delivered 3 out of the 5, and the 2 others are due towards the end of the project, and it is interdependent on other work packages completing their work so that the final report can be produced, and through that LA report. We started off in mid-July roughly with the stakeholder mapping and analysis following the kickoff meetings. Then we identified the right communication plan and strategy. We wanted to build Sharp as a brand because there are so many joint actions, and it's important people to recognize this. It took a while for us to get there, but I think it is now well known than before at the start of the project. So Towards the end of that year, we produced our first two deliverables in terms of setting up a dedicated website. I'm sure most of you have visited that, used it, interacted it. It is quite rich in content now, and it's quite interactive. And then the leaflet was also produced. We did a lot of other templates in terms of branding, whether it's the PowerPoint slides, the documents, the leaflets, the newsletters, etc. And then, of course, after COVID, our work was also to an extent disrupted, but we were very agile, and we used the opportunity for the COVID communication around COVID as a method also to disseminate to the other work packages, and we were able to contribute in the risk communication space during the peak of the COVID. Subsequently, we got Karen in the team, and then she's been able to revamp some of our work, including a recasting of our communication strategy. We looked at stakeholder analysis. We optimized our website. We refreshed our dissemination strategy, updated the newsletters, the banners, and more importantly, we did a lot of coordination of work of different work packages in terms of supporting work package leads to deliver their training in terms of pre-training, pre-delivery dissemination, evaluation, organic posting on social media, and the post-event evaluation, etc. So I think that the last year and a bit has been very busy, and we've many training programs that we have supported. And now in June, we have now submitted the blueprint, which is one that Leah will also speak a little bit more about, because we did not want this work package to be just a routine work package that just finishes its work with a standard report. What we have done is to leave a bit of a legacy in terms of a blueprint. So anybody who would like to do communication dissemination for future joint action can pick up our blueprint document, which is now with steering committee for approval. It's a 50-page document, extensive and quite comprehensive. You can hit the ground running with it. So which is one of the other things that we are very proud of. Of course, there are two more deliverables that we have remaining, which is the final report, the communications report for our work package, and a layman report, which follows the final report that work package 1 will produce. I will now hand over to my colleague Leah, who will just take us through some of the major achievements that we have done. Leah, can I hand over to you?
Thank you. Thanks so much, Giri. Can you just give me a wave to let me know everyone can hear me? Is that okay? Sound is okay? Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. I'll carry on then. So I'm going to go into just a little bit more detail about some of the work that we did to optimize the work package and really make the absolute best out of the materials that were being produced by each of the other work packages. So particularly from March 2022 onwards, and this is Karen deserves a lot of the credit for this work, working alongside Mary and Oti and the rest of the members of Work Package 1, really thinking about how to make the best of the website, improving the content and increasing the effectiveness of search engine optimization. And then the second thing was to take a campaign approach to each of the deliverables within the work packages themselves and working with leads from across the whole of the project to pick up stories that could be told and turned into communications deliverables. And we did that through using digital channels, news posts, direct emails, social media, using the Agora network posts, and increasing our potential reach to almost 9,000 participants. The other thing that we put some focus on to once the refreshed communication strategy was pinned down in March of 2022 was increasing the our stakeholder list and really working hard to understand exactly who needed to be on that contact list with potential interest in the Sharp joint action. We also did a lot of work to optimize social media by following all the key organizations at the global level, regional policy level, national policy and coordination level, alongside the operational levels to make sure that we were cutting across and reaching the audiences that we want to in terms of influence. We used social media listening as a tool to monitor and see how the conversations were progressing online. And then we also facilitated the publications in journals to assist with dissemination of that work. So if we move on to the next slide then, I thought I would just highlight a few of the areas of impact of the approach that we've taken. So taking that strategic communications approach has allowed us to really gain a much better coverage, a much better following, and higher degree of reach. Part of that has been presenting at 5 external organizational events. Including that, we also had the newsletters and increasing our subscribers by 133%. So really increasing the engagement with other sectors, which we know is a key element of international health protection. We increased the users on our website, so increasing to over 1,000 with 83% of users returning, and that's as a result of the improvements and optimization that we did. Recruitment to the SHARP workshops, and Giri mentioned this. So Work Package 2, not only did we focus on delivering the specific deliverables that were set out in the work plan, we also worked really hard to make sure that we were supporting and promoting and helping to recruit participants to the workshops across all of the work packages, and as well as supporting the publication in journals wherever we were able to support that. And then finally, and I think this is something that I feel very strongly about, I think is really important, the blueprint that we have set out as part of the joint action agreement at the outset. So if we move on to slide 7, I'll talk about that very briefly. When we put in the application to take part in this joint action, Giri and I thought that it would be really valuable to include a deliverable around the long-term future. So how do we take the work and everything we've learned about doing this and put this into a blueprint so that other Work Package 2 leads can take this forward in terms of other future joint actions. So our aim in creating a blueprint for effective program communications was to add value to the program and really create a legacy for SHARP, not just in the implementation of the international health regulations, but also in its effectiveness of delivery. The second thing about the blueprint that's really important is to make sure that it was founded on communications theory, so that we've used evidence-based methodologies and we've explained how those can be applied in the context of a joint action. And thirdly, we've provided practical recommendations based on the specific learnings from the SHARP joint action in the aim of helping others in the future to increase and improve and optimize the work that they will be doing on future joint actions funded by the European Commission. So I wish to thank Karen Dancy for the work that she's done on that blueprint. As Giri said, it's a really substantial document and one that I feel will give us a real legacy as a communications and dissemination work package following the closure of this in October. So I'm going to hand back over to Giri, if that's okay. If you have any final comments or if you want to take any questions, Giri, obviously I'm happy to answer any as appropriate, but that's what I wanted to cover today. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Leah. That's really helpful. So I think I'll just conclude by saying that it's been a real pleasure to be part of this joint action, and it was great working with all the other work packages. Hopefully, the work that we've done in support of all the other work packages has helped raise the profile of the project, as well as the key outputs that have come about from it and would be helpful to member countries. Thank you very much.